Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage, and this can be another episode on the 65 Mustang. So follow me along through the intro, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so it's been a few days since the last video was published. Hopefully, this won't be a pause on these videos for long. I've not talked to him anymore at this point, but this became a huge financial strain. And I understand it costs a lot of money, even at a discounted rate, to build a car like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get some of this stuff that's easy to bolt on, that's just loose and floating around the shop, bolt it back on the car. So let's see what we can get done today. And hopefully I won't have to push this thing outside and let it sit in the weather for the next 2 months. So let's see what happens. And we got Daisy down here on the floor doing kitty cat things. She's not super happy, but I showed her shirts and she's real happy about them. So make sure you check those out down in our store below. So I've been thinking all weekend about how I can bring another large job in with this car belonging part of my shop. Unfortunately, me being a small shop like this, I literally have only 3 bays I can work out of, and this Mustang eats 2 of those 3 up. And the other one's got a lift on it. So it kind of obstructs me from making any kind of real progress. So I need to get some of this loose stuff that's floating around the shop, throw them back on this car, so I can decide where I go from here. So I come in here this morning, I painted the inserts and the side scoops black. I'm going to get them bolted on, see if we can't get the quarter extensions on it and the rear bumper back on it, and I can hang the rear quarter interior pieces, just stick them on the car for now. So I really wanted to put the harness in this car first, get it color sanded buff first, but I can't front the money for that stuff with a possibility of not having a return back from it. So let's put on what we can and we'll go from there. Like I said, I came here this morning and blacked out the inserts I made for the scoops, and we need to get those on there. And Daisy's out here in the middle of the floor again. Alright, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to take the side scoop and I'm going to mock it back up just like I did when I put the studs in it. I'm going to take and observe all my gaps well here. See where everything sits. Now I'm going to come in here with a dry erase marker. I'm going to mark on my quarter panel. The reason why I'm using a dry erase marker is because I can wipe it off. I can wipe it off with no issues. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark where my block off is. I know where our line is around. And yes, I know there's a run right here, but it's under our scoop and you won't ever see it. I'm going to take and I'm going to put some urethane sealer here, some urethane sealer around this hole. I'm going to run a bead here on the quarter. We'll run one here and down through this edge. I'm going to leave the bottom open. That way if there is any moisture gets behind this, it can drain out. But I want to make sure we're sealed off to the quarter. And the urethane will help us adhere. And when we're done, it'll give us a nice clean line. So, like I said, just got some urethane here. I'll put me a button here and a button here. Just like that. Now I'm going to put me a small bead right here. And what this does will just allow that to black out. I'm going to put one around through here. And I know some of you are probably screaming at this point. But what this will do, it'll help adhere the scoop to the quarter panel. It'll help seal things off. And ultimately, it'll make it look better in the end. So, thing with a urethane sealer like this, if you do happen to get anything on your paint, as long as you wipe it off before you dry, you can use just some plain old rubbing alcohol and it'll wipe off. So, got that sealed off there, and I know it looks horrible, but what it does, it's going to allow this right here to seal to the quarter. That little bit of urethane on the bolt holes is going to act like a Loctite on these studs to keep the nuts from backing off. And will ultimately allow me to adjust this where I want it to be so that it clears everything and have a little free time to move this scoop around as I need fit. Because one thing you have to watch on these scoops is your door edge clearance. They absolutely cannot be protruding past the door jamb in any way. I'm just going to loosely tighten that there so I can check our door closer. Make sure it's not going to rub. And if it's close, I can do some minor adjustments. As needed before I tighten it down. And we're not tightening for super tight here. We just want these nuts snug. And I know a lot of people were concerned that what I was doing was overkill holding these things on. But I also don't want them to blow off. Because them blowing off would be a super bad thing. And we clear our door just fine. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run a bead around the outside edge. And I know my tip is a little wide here, but what I'm going to do here is just run a small little bead down like that. And you're like, well, you got it all over the paint. I'm just going to take my thumb and a towel and smear this so you can see just how bad it looks. So we got a mess, right? I'm going to saturate a towel in rubbing alcohol right here. What this rubbing alcohol will do, will add as a lubricant while being a solvent, but not solvent enough to hurt the clear coat. And this trick won't work on a flat paint or a super fresh paint, which paint on this car is fresh, but I have tested it thoroughly. what we're going to do, we're just going to have some disposable towels as we go along. And I could have spent a bunch of time taping this up and what have you, and mess. But the alcohol really does a trick here. It will allow you to clean this urethane off without affecting your seam line. And what it will also do is give you a super clean line. All the way down around. And you just want to make sure that you don't have no urethane where you do not want it. And just like that, our side scoop's mounted. And I know there's probably a bunch of you screaming about how I done that. It works, guys. And one thing I do know, that scoop ain't never coming off again. Even if the bolts fail, the urethane will adhere itself to the car. Same stuff your windshields and back glass is glued in with your modern cars. As long as you hit it when it's wet, you can use that rubbing alcohol trick. Or you can be like that Japanese guy that does all those Porsches, cuts them up with a saw. And you can take the lines off and, you know, run it over your finger and then peel it off. It's much faster to do it with the rubbing alcohol. Other than a few towels, that's about all you're going to waste. And you get the same effect. So I'll flip it around, I'll show it to you. I've already done the passenger side. I done it first. This is where I had a feel of if my plan was going to work or not. So let me flip it around. So got our passenger side on. And as you can see, it looks pretty darn decent. Like I said, I blacked them out in there and made them filler panels. That way we caught the minimum amount of air. And then, like I said, I just sealed it out with a little of the black urethane to try to make it look more natural. And we got the same thing over here. Trimmed out with the urethane where it looked a little more natural. And blacked out there. And all right, now to our next thing, we're going to go to our quarter extensions. And what I like to do on these, I'll take a little bit of strip caulk, and this will just help with water leakage issues. I'm just going to put a little bit around each one of these bolt holes. And what this is a butyl rubber tape, so to say. And you can put it around your holes or anywhere you may want to stop any kind of water intrusion. And what that'll do, it'll seal these holes off from water that runs down off the quarter panel. Or what have you. It's always a good idea to try to address this stuff when you're assembling a car for the final time. Because the supplied sealer that comes with the quarter extension bolts that's made onto them is usually not sufficient enough to seal these off. So this is about 3/8 of an inch thick. You can literally work it down to whatever size you want. You can make it thin if you just kind of stretch and pull. So let's get the quarter extension, get it on there for the final time. Get our quarter extension. Get our urethane, butyl rubber on there. What that does, it'll allow us to make a nice watertight seal. Where we need it. And we'll allow this extension to kind of float off the quarter until we get it tightened down. But anytime you get a bolt that passes through an exterior panel where there's a chance of water intrusion, you want to use something like that to help seal it off. That's the way Ford done it, except that they used a small amount on the bottom nuts. And where I mocked this up, as you can see, the sealer is gone. So that's just going to be an extra line of insurance. It is heavier and more heavy duty than the material that Ford actually used. It's not like you're going to take quarter extensions off, hopefully no other time in its life. So in theory, you could use liquid urethane, but the butyl tape works just fine. So let me get that other quarter extension on there and I'll be back. And Daisy wanted back in her spot, so I put her towel down so she could lay up here on the roof all happy. She's been good about laying on it, so she's a pretty good little old kitty cat. And our back bumper's on. You may have to add shims under one bolt or the other in order to twist your bumper the way you need it to twist. Shims under the top bolt will roll the bumper out. Shims under the bottom bolt will roll the bumper in. You also want to make sure it's square side to side. And like I said before, I tried to make this as tight as we could So everything lined up as reasonable as we could. So that's what we get for back bumper. And I painted them stripes all the way down. That way there was no white gaps in between the bumper and rear valance. So got that going for us. Daisy's up here asleep. And other than my headlight bezels, everything that was painted and loose is stuck back on the car. Some of it permanently, some of it temporarily. So, and Daisy's mouse stealer has got her mouse again, and he is not going to take off with it this time. Don't know where he come from, but he's a friendly cat. He just has this thing where he likes to take Daisy's mice. Don't know where he come from. Hey, buddy. Yeah, he friendly? Yeah. You like him pets too, huh? And Daisy won't be too happy if she sees him in her area over there. So, that'll be interesting. So, guys, what do we do at this point? So, guys, this is about where I'm going to leave this video off. I know there's been a lot of people curious about the money spent in the car and labor hours that I've had in it. I went through the other day and added all that stuff up. But I will say this, it is a very large amount of labor hours, a very large amount of money, even though I'm not charging $100 or $150 like most of your normal shops do. Some are $200, $250 an hour. I've been charging him a half rate and then knocking days off. I mean, literally days off as his projects went. So what I have recorded was 597 labor hours. I'm pretty sure, yeah, 597 is what I had wrote down here. That's not counting weekends I come down here and work, or weeks that we've had 2 videos in 1 week. That stuff was completely on me and completely free because his budget couldn't allow more than 2 to 3 days a week of labor time, even with me discounting it. And while the video revenue helps me help him out, it's not enough to really cover any kind of major portion. If any of y'all have done YouTube, you know that it pays off views per 1,000 views. So if we have a video that gets 2,000 views, it might make $40, guys. That's where the interaction and the likes and the sharing, the stuff comes in real handy. It helps get those videos out in front of more people, and that helps him out. The biggest things I always say, like, share, and subscribe. All those things are free, and it helps me help him out, helps me help other customers out on stuff that I make videos on. But, you know, it takes that interaction for this stuff to grow. And we've done leaps and bounds on this car from what it was when it came in. I just hope this isn't a point of no return with the car. I would like to get it finished. I really want to get it done for him for Christmas, kind of like a Christmas present. And if you think it's the second week in November already, that was a large order. But I needed to been able to get this stuff rolling and get these parts in here that we needed. Because the car at this point, other than color sanding and buffing the car, it's ready for door rubbers, wire and harness, weather strips. And a lot of the stuff on the car was in poor condition. While it functioned and it worked, it was in poor condition. Even things like the headliner. Headliner was filthy in this car and not put in right. It didn't have no window trim around the back window. I mean, stuff like that. Vent around the chrome's all pitted. And that's not stuff you want to put on a freshly painted car. Just like all the dash bezels and stuff like that. So, like I said, if you want to help him out, make sure you like these videos, share them with your friends. Go back and watch the playlist. if you're new to the channel, check out his playlist on this car from the beginning. There's a bunch of videos. There is a ton of stuff that you can learn, that you might be able to pick up that might help you. If you're restoring one of these cars, it might help you with it. But every bit of this content on this car build right here applies to just about any classic car, and definitely applies to any unibody classic Ford car. I'm talking Falcons, Comets, Fairlanes, Torinos, stuff like that. They're all built about the same. They're all assembled about the same. There's not a whole lot of difference between all these cars. And even Mavericks fall in that category. And later model Granadas. I mean, before they went to the Fox body platform, they're all pretty much the same chassis, guys. The only difference is wheelbase and a little bit of width. Most of the stuff, literally suspension wise, swaps between them all. Like I said, minor differences. So I'm not going to ramble on too much more. I've got to figure out what I'm doing with the car at this point, because if we're going to take a break from it, I've got to get us something else in here that we can make some videos on that maybe you guys will enjoy. I've been taking a few days at this point trying to kind of collect my thoughts on the whole deal. I don't know how I could have helped him anymore. I've been over backwards at this point. Even off my half shop rate, I've knocked over $10,000 off his car, off his labor bill. I've not charged him for parts and supplies and stuff like that along the way. While he's paid for some of it, he's not paid for all of it. And he's paid for it at cost, what it cost me. I've not made a dime on that stuff. So I know he appreciates you guys watching these videos, and I've greatly appreciated it. But we'll just have to see where we go from here. So that's it, guys. That's going to be it for this video. I'll see you at the next one. I don't know what our next video is going to be on yet, but just stay tuned. I'll come up with a plan, and hopefully we'll have something cool coming.